Hi, my name's Jason, and I am going to walk through some of the issues and decisions I made in doing sound treatment in my home studio. So this is part of my home studio build series. I've got a playlist for these types of issues and questions. So if you're interested in that topic specifically, check out that playlist. So I think the first thing we need to establish is, what am I trying to achieve? I'm not trying to be a perfect mastering room or even a perfect mixing room. Mostly what I'm interested in is having a good tracking room. Let's just step into the room to give you a sense of the space, and then I'll walk through how I set up the sound treatments. The room is about 10 by 14. And basically my strategy for the sound treatment was to make one end of the room, this end of the room near the computer and the main monitors, to have a more dead sound. And then in this end of the room, it's a much more live sound. So I want to pause the walk around at this point. I really want to emphasize that one end of the room is low reflection and the other end of the room is higher reflection. If I want to track for more reverby sound, I can kind of point my instrument in this direction and set up my microphone, somewhere on this big thick red carpet on the floor. So it really does sound more like the guitar is back in the mix right off the initial tracking stage, and you're getting some natural reverb in that sound to start working with. But if I wanted an upfront, intimate sounding acoustic guitar, I would probably point it into this corner where all this reflection stuff is going to capture most of that, and I'm going to get a more upfront, closer mic'd sound out of that guitar. In my opinion, anything that you can do in the tracking stage with natural sounds is generally going to be better than trying to add reverb after the fact. So what I did was I focused on the primary reflection points from the main monitors. You can see there's a huge brown, looks like a cardboard panel behind the main computer. That's a 3-inch thick Roxol panel. Also on the ceiling here, above the main listening position, trying to aim for the reflection point on the ceiling where it comes back down to the seated position. That's also a 3-inch Roxol panel, but that one was small enough that I was able to get a burlap cover on it. There's a big single Roxol panel behind that burlap in the corner there. That's a pretty effective bass trap strategy there. And then on this corner, it was a lot harder to deal with this corner because of the door. I needed the door to be able to open to that storage closet there. So I just hung a panel on the door. After those large, thick panels that I built, you'll see all of these gray panels on the wall, which is part of a London 10 kit from Prime Acoustic. So your decision about DIY versus buy, I think, depends on two important factors. One is your skills for DIY. If you can get a good result that you're happy with without too much frustration, or perhaps you even enjoy the process. It takes about the same amount of effort to make like a single large panel like that as it does to make a small little 1x1 panel like this. So it's just much easier to buy the smaller panels and make the big custom panels. That is how I made the decision, in part just because I just wanted the studio to look good. The other thing I'll say about DIY versus buy is that if you do have skills on DIY, you can customize with the DIY, and you'll definitely see that in the big panel I did behind the computer. And the reason I made it so big, it's because I can move things around and the panel will always be where I need it to be. And I kind of figured, well, the space behind my computer is kind of useless anyway. If I'm going to have some panels back there, I might as well just have a huge, massive one. And it wasn't really any extra effort to make a huge panel, so I just made a huge one. So my strategy to hang these other vertical panels just around the room really, I think, was pretty effective at getting the room to just kind of sound nice. I wasn't going for totally dead. I'm just it sounds nice when you play an acoustic guitar or whatever in here. It sounds good, which is kind of what you want for tracking. And this is kind of where I go with vocal strategy as well. Like I can stand underneath this thing, and because this isn't a really high ceiling, I can stand underneath here and get a much drier sound off my vocal. Then if I start standing out here, you can start to hear a little bit of reverb off this ceiling here with a few panels. And if I really wanted a reverby vocal, I could stand back in this corner. Not that I've ever really wanted a reverby vocal, but it's right here. If I wanted to record a reverby vocal, I've got an option for it. And so if you want to hear some of the tracking results that I'm getting in this room, you can check out my singles Legos and Unraveled. We're all tracked in this room except for the drums. And maybe that's a good point to bring up about tracking drums, is that they're super bassy and they're super loud. And kind of when I looked into sort of the technical requirements to getting a good drum sound, it's like you either needed a bigger room or you needed to have a lot of padding. And I just kind of started to think that it wasn't really that practical to think about recording live drums in this room. I mean, I guess if I really worked at the problem, I could probably get it, but then it would be like optimized for drumming, and I'm not even a drummer. So I definitely decided to go somewhere else to record drums, and it was a lot better. So that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening. If you're liking the content on this channel, please subscribe, and I will be doing live performances and DIY and gear reviews, all on this channel, separated out by playlists. Thanks a lot.